Hello, and welcome to Locality's Making Bank podcast with host Keith Costello, co-founder and CEO of Locality Bank. Sit back, relax, and let South Florida visionaries take you on an entrepreneurial journey from tribulation to triumph as they share the very stories that have shaped them.
Andrew Sossin, welcome to the Locality Bank podcast, Making Bank.
Good morning.
Glad you could make it. We appreciate you being here today. You got quite a story, a lot of different businesses. We've already been talking for like an hour, just sitting here, waiting for everything to get started. So I know you have a lot to share with us. So let's just start out. Where did you start? Where are you from? The background, and we're going to get a little coffee being brewed in the background. So don't let that. We filter that out.
I mean, I think that's ironic and funny because that's life, right? You're doing what you're doing and stuff happens in the background and you got to figure out how to move forward. I was born up north, actually, in Toronto. My dad's family's from Toronto. My mom's family's from Brooklyn. I got here to South Florida when I was 6 weeks old. Okay. So, I'm a Floridian. If it gets under 70 degrees, I take out a jacket, even though I was born in Canada. Grew up here in South Florida. Went to Nova Public, Nova Blanche Foreman, Nova Middle, Nova High, in Davie, and then on to University of Florida after that.
Awesome. Great. So you were telling me before we got started that I was asked about first job, and you were like going back to when you were 11 years old. So it's like...
Yeah. Even before that, when I was 8 is when I started passing out flyers for the insurance agency. And when I was 9 and 10, I was selling candy at school for a candy store that was in the Sheridan Plaza. I was saying, just talking about banks, I remember my first summer when I opened up my first bank account, which was August 1989 at Barnett Bank on Sheridan Street in 441. And I remember, my first deposit of $79, and it made a difference. It was a big thing back then, for me to understand. And I'm grateful that I learned at an early age, just the value of working, money, what you can do with it, how to earn it. And then throughout that time, my first job a couple years after, on the payroll was at Baskin Robbins in Hollywood.
Cool.
And then I worked for King Carmel Insurance Agency for all my middle and high school years.
So how did you learn that? Where did that work ethic come from? And who were your kind of early role models?
Yeah, I had several. I'm very grateful. My dad has been a CPA, for 55 years. I always thought he worked a little too much in the tax season, right? He worked 7 days a week, till the middle of the night, for 6 months a year. Then always in July was a little slow. Then he was back to doing the corporate stuff after. So he was working hard. My grandfather, I spent a lot of time with him when I was younger. He had an insurance agency. And he was, very hard worker. My uncle, and then my best friend, Grant Einhorn, his dad, Steve Einhorn, who since I was very young. I was very fortunate that, he explained his view of the world versus other views of the world, which just was, working for yourself versus working for somebody else, and taking the initiative that nobody owes you anything. If you were going to do anything, it's up to you. And so I was grateful that when I was very young, when I was 14, he brought me to a Zig Ziglar was speaking at Joe Robbie, when Steve was part of the Amway organization. I had started my own Amway group when I was 16, which Amway was just Amazon before people knew what that was. Yeah. They were a little ahead of the time. And then I got to meet Les Brown with Steve. And it was because of Steve that I went to my first Tony Robbins seminar when I was 19. So
those are like classic motivational speakers. I mean, Zig Ziglar, Les Brown. I mean, that's those are like the golden names of motivation, and then into Tony Robbins. So, and you were just telling me about that. Just to segue for a minute to, you were just telling me about the impact that Tony Robbins has had on you and how you've been really attending those for 21 years?
43, actually now 24 years.
Oh, 24 years.
It was one of those things where, I first started with the tapes from Zig because of Steve. And then my Uncle Jerry had given me some Tony Robbins tapes. And Steve, was supposed to go to a seminar that he couldn't go to. I was in college, University of Florida, and he said, I think this is something that you and Grant should go to. And, we went, and this is back, when the seminars were hundreds of people, not tens of thousands. Drank the Kool-Aid the first day. And I believe there's good Kool-Aid and bad Kool-Aid and everything. And then over the last 24 years, I've done 19 fire walks. I like to joke these days that I've done 19 fire walks, never had an issue. My last 19 barbecues, the one last year almost killed me in the barbecue fire, which was a challenge that I'm still dealing with, but moving forward. But it was really, what I took over the years from, not just myself, but my business partners, our employees. We've had over 200 employees attend the seminars, over the years. And it's been extremely beneficial in, the mindset. And Tony has evolved himself in stuff that he was doing 24 years ago and expanded upon it. And it's really helped in both life, and business. And even with just, the accident I had last year, I know that without the mindset that I learned from a young age, with going, listening, learning, the personal development, I wouldn't be sitting with you here right now today.
Wow.
No, definitely not.
So how that accident, that barbecue fire,
yeah.
How long were you incapacitated?
Was in the hospital for several weeks, just less than a month, home for several months, just started going back out again a couple months ago.
Wow.
Still can't wear shoes and have nerve damage, but it's one of those things where, not going to let it define how I live. And so just like everything else in life, you're going in one direction, something happens and you got to pivot, figure out what to do and keep moving forward.
That's great advice. One more obstacle to overcome and just keep going.
That is correct.
That's awesome, man. That's an incredible story. So you went to UF, and then when you graduated from UF, what'd you do after graduation? Did you start with a company or?
So when I was at University of Florida, I worked several jobs as well. Back then, before cell phones, I sold long distance cards. So I had the long distance card deal that we were doing. I had my own Amway store in my dorm in my house, which was also good at the time. And then I got my insurance license right when I was 18. And I had a friend of mine that went to the career fair at UF, and there was somebody there from Northwestern Mutual. And I ended up interviewing with Northwestern Mutual. And at the time, I was a little too young, but I said, look, give me the opportunity to try your summer program. And if I'm not the number one agent, get rid of me. Number one college agent that summer, top 20 in the country, and really enjoyed what I was doing there and embarked for the next several years with Northwestern Mutual, learning the insurance business, and getting involved in that. And that's what I did while I was at UF, and then when I graduated as well.
And how long did you stay with them?
I was there till 07. I started my own Sossin Financial Group.
How old were you then?
So 26.
So decided to go out on your own at 26?
Yeah, it was just one of those things, Northwestern's fantastic, but, I was working at the time in different fields. I had gotten a specialty with athletes and entertainers, and ended up doing work with some very big names in the sports and entertainment world. And then that was, great time of my life, traveling around, lots of fun, in that world. And then when I got married and didn't want to be out and about as much in that world, started on the premium financed, was doing premium finance life insurance, started my own life settlement brokerage to broker life settlement deals at the time.
And that was Sossin Financial Group?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sossin Financial Group, and was doing that, which is still in business today. Sossin Financial Group is still in business today. It's evolved several different times. I've kept my license in 39 states. I haven't been active myself, but I have other people that work with me there.
Okay.
Got all my licenses. I had met Michael Drath years ago through his dad, Richard Drath.
Yeah.
who was and Michael and I started a property and casualty agency that Michael's continued on with for the last 16 years now, I believe it is. And then also at the time, because I had business ADD sometimes, I had a friend of mine that wanted to start a debt settlement company. So I helped him start a debt settlement company, which became a call center here in Hollywood, and then moved to Santo Domingo. And now he took over and kept the company when I started Recovery Unplugged. But we started that in 2007, and I was there for 5 years helping build that as well. He has 300 full-time people in Santo Domingo and another 150 in Trinidad now.
So you're obviously somebody who believes in multiple income streams. And as you said, business ADD. So all these, how do you keep all of these different businesses? How do you keep track of everything?
Well, one of the keys is to have good people that you work with that you could trust. So, over the years, I've helped, and those are the ones I'm involved. I mean, I'll get to a couple of that I'm involved with as well, but I've also always believed in empowering others. So I've had several people over the years that have, I've helped, and I don't always recommend this, especially with challenges going on, but I've helped, co-sign loans for people to start businesses. I've helped several different people start their own business as well that I have no part of, other than, I help them obtain a loan or lend them some money up front, and they'll pay me back and they're successful. So
wow, that's great.
My whole thing has always been believing that if somebody needs help, you could lend them some money today, but they'll need more money tomorrow. If you teach them, how to earn for themselves, and even if you have to help them a little bit, they're sustained forever. Wow. So, I've always been a big believer in that. Not everything has worked out great. Some have been costly, and that's okay. But there are a couple dozen people that are, out there, have their own successful businesses today, and I know that I helped start it. So whether I don't own any part of it, but without that original, maybe I helped them a little bit, signed for a loan, took them to a seminar, or all of the above, and now they're successful. 10, 20 years later, it's grateful to see that.
That's great. So I'm assuming you spend most of your time with Recovery Unplugged?
Yeah,
right?
so
tell us that story.
2013, we started Recovery Unplugged. What had happened several years before that is we had some family members that were going through challenges, drug challenges with prescription pills. Mm-hmm. And it culminated.
Pretty common here in South Florida.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where, these are good people that, they're doctors who are also good people, were prescribing them medicines they got addicted to. And so we had several family members, one that was in a car accident, two that were in a car accident, had back issues, got addicted to Oxy, were in and out of treatment that I was paying for. And then another family member that had depression issues that got addicted to different substances. And it just all culminated into a family member getting arrested, another one ODing, and living. And so a good friend of mine, Marshall Geiser, who I've been friends with, we became friends at a Tony Robbins seminar 21 years ago.
Okay.
The best part of that story is when I had first met Marshall right down the street here. When I was 19, I tried to sell him insurance, and he threw me out of his office, literally. At the time, he was single. A couple years later, we reconnected at a Tony Robbins seminar. He had 2 kids at the time and was a lot nicer after that weekend. And we became friends, and I'm the godfather to his children.
Wow.
And he helped our family members that were going to be sentenced to 15 years get 4 years. And he introduced me to a gentleman named Paul who helped create the mental health and drug court system here in Broward County.
Wow. That
would help people get treatment instead of jail. And then we came together, and they had the idea to use music as a catalyst for therapy. My thought was, it can't be any worse than what's going on out there. And let's try this out. Let me figure out. It wasn't what I thought I'd be doing. I had the call center work. I had the Sossin Financial Group. I also had a company, Personal Injury Funding Group. We fund personal injury cases. Mm-hmm. Been doing that since 2007 as well. And we started here in Fort Lauderdale with a 30-bed facility. And then the first year, as it was growing, I realized there's some real opportunity here to actually make a big difference. are my own family members are some of our first clients. Fast forward, 8-9 years, they're clean, sober, and successful and alive today.
That's great.
As well as many other people. So, the original, when we originally started, I was joking, my friend at the time, Andrew Chambers from Bank of America, had helped me with Sossin Financial Group, with the call center, with the personal injury company, and helped us get our first bank account for Recovery Unplugged. And then as we grew, we saw opportunity to help more people. And because of the music side, I'd gone to Austin City Limits Music Festival, met a gentleman there that had an attorney that was 10 years in recovery, and said, it'd be great if you guys could do this here. So I stayed out there, got introduced to, met somebody else at the music festival who introduced me to his mom, who they call her Grandma Mary Warrington, out in Austin, Texas. She was the former president of the Texas Bankers Association.
Wow.
She retired, but because of what she had seen in her life, and she had taken in and helped several different people over the years that had drug challenges.
Yeah.
So when she saw what we were doing, we met. She made a bunch of phone calls and helped us get our first bank and line of credit in Austin with Commerce Bank at the time, small local bank. And that's how we were able to start Recovery Unplugged Austin in 2015.
Great. It's good to hear these bank stories, So usually I ask that question, but you went right into it, which is good because, a lot of entrepreneurs, as they're building their companies, need to find money from somewhere, right? Because you've only got so much, and somebody like you have so many different businesses. Obviously, you can't fund them all yourself. You're going to need some either outside investment or some bankers to understand your story. So that's a great story. Any other stories like that?
Well, when we started Recovery Unplugged, originally there was property involved as well as the business, and we had some people that were very interested in the deal. I had put a down payment on a property here in Fort Lauderdale, and 10 days before closing, the person that was going to partner with me decided not to. So I had, at that time, I found out it was a weekend. I had 7 days to find somebody else to partner with me on a business that I had not been in before, on property that was a good property, but ironically, I had a gentleman call me up. You can believe in the law of attraction, you can believe in prayer, I believe in both. I had a gentleman call me up literally after I had done putting on my tefillin and morning prayers that said, I was introduced to you, he was interested in buying an annuity. So I told him what the annuity rates at the time were, and he screamed at me in French, Hebrew, and English that was too low. So I told him, well, I have this other opportunity. I have this business. I have this property. 2 hours later, he met me at the property in Fort Lauderdale, and a day later, wired $500,000
Wow.
to be my partner on that deal.
That is a good story.
So, we had the bank loan set up. We just didn't have all the down payment.
Right.
And I had taken everything I had liquid at the time to put, initially as well. So, again, we thought something was done, and then boom, it wasn't, as life is. And we were able to put the deal together, and, it was a great opportunity, and that's how we started.
Are you guys still partners in that?
After a couple of years, he ended up moving to Israel. We sold the property. He took his money back on that, but truly grateful to him on that opportunity.
And he did better than the annuity.
He did a lot better. And at the time, the rates were, fixing a couple, 2-3%, and he did very well on that. And so, it was just another situation where, we had the bank side set up, but we didn't have that side set up. So that's happened a few times.
Yeah.
It's happened a few times. And, we've been grateful over the years to, have I've had a good track record in, always doing the right thing, because I believe that at the end of the day, no matter what, your name is your integrity. And so people have, been there for us when we needed.
I would say for somebody like you who's done so many different businesses and, like you say, starting at 11, working and so entrepreneurial, what advice do you have for people who are listening, who are, maybe working somewhere, trying to start a business or thinking about it, what's the advice you would give them?
I think, today it's a lot more common for people to have, quote, the side hustle that becomes the main hustle. I think there are more opportunities today and resources online than there have ever been before. I've read every book that, personal development and entrepreneurial book. I remember when I was at University of Florida, I got an opportunity, I got a scholarship to do a business program in London. And it was around the time Richard Branson was launching something, and I got to see him, out somewhere. And then I bought his book the next day and read the whole thing, and then I got to meet him a couple of years later at an event here for American Express in Miami that Steve Einhorn brought me to. And it was just always looking at people that had, been there and done it, right? And what did they do, right? Because everybody's got a different story. Everybody's got a different situation. My advice, as I tell young people or anybody that's asking today, is, figure out what you want to do, and it may change, and then find people that are doing it. Find people that are doing it well, or find people that and if you can't get to them per se, everybody's got people have podcasts, people have books, there's a lot of resources to take what somebody's done, listen to their story, and then figure out how it's going to apply to you. I also tell everybody, it's not easy, right? I've like I said, I've had situation after situation after situation, where things were going fantastic until they weren't, both in business and in life. In the insurance business, back with the premium finance settlement days, in 2009 when the economy crashed, we had several deals, that were going on that, I had 14 people full time at that entity, and I didn't want to let anybody go, and I kept them 10 months longer than I should. Yeah. And that's life.
Right.
And that happens, and then you got to start over.
Yeah.
Days away from the brink. In 2015 when we opened up Austin, I mean, every challenge under the sun came at us, in the beginning, and then we grew there. I had gone full time at Recovery Unplugged in 2015. And we grew. We went from 30 employees to 50 employees to 100 employees, 200 employees. We have over 325 full-time employees now. We grew from Fort Lauderdale and then Austin, and then we acquired a facility in D.C. that had been there, and then we opened up in Nashville. And Nashville is another, situation where a local bank, Inns Bank, Blake Wilson, was able to help us out. But in that situation, we found a perfect property that ended up not being perfect, and cost overruns. Fighting with the local city at first, other people that didn't want us to be there, that felt that we were a threat, causing challenges. And when you're 10 months behind on opening something, and you're strapped for cash, it became a big challenge. Yeah. Another story where, we had a cash crunch. Didn't know what to do. A group out here in Boca. I ended up getting on a phone call with 5 days left, and them coming in and becoming our partner on that deal. I happened to be it was my birthday. It was June. My birthday's in June. I was in Philadelphia with my son. Had to stop everything we were doing, run to a bank to sign a bunch of papers and get a deal done, or lose that deal that day.
Wow.
I promised myself after the first deal in 2013 that wouldn't happen again, but in 2017 it did, and that's okay. Yeah. Because if I look at what that did, it allowed us to open up that business, which has saved thousands of lives. As of this morning, we've got over 9,000 people whose lives we've saved.
Wow. Oh, that must feel great. And so. Nice to hear the community bank up in Nashville help you too. I want to also acknowledge you as an investor in Locality Bank. So you obviously believe in what we're doing as well. So thank you for supporting our initiative here in South Florida to help local
I also
companies.
believe in you.
Thank you.
And I've known you for many years. And when we were expanding Florida, it was when you were at First Green Bank. that Linda Parsons helped us.
Yeah.
Again, another situation where, nobody, because of some challenges that other people had in South Florida that we hadn't, we were doing it, we'd always done things the right way. There's a lot of banks that didn't want to go near treatment centers. And, you heard us out and put Linda with us, who helped us, open up, because we were here in Fort Lauderdale with our outpatient. We were able to open our detox and residential center in Lake Worth because of that deal.
That's excellent.
And then you sold it, which is what happens. So I've always been a fan of what you and your belief in the community, and in community businesses and in local, like what we're doing here.
Well, thank you.
When I heard about Locality, I thought, this is something that's needed, and if I could be, involved in any way, I truly believe in the model, especially in 2022 and beyond.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Anything else you want to add before we move on to like the lightning round, where I ask you a bunch of quick questions?
I mean, again, for people out there, looking at opportunities, there will always be an opportunity, and it's really going to come down to what you put into it. And I think the only thing that I could stress to the younger people today is that, nothing happens. People will say you're an overnight success after 20 years.
Right.
And people don't realize the hours, the days, the weeks, the mental anguish that goes into, building a business. Right. Nobody gets to where, all the people you see and you read about the Elons and the Zuckerbergs and all that, decades were put into where they come to, and even local people as well, is that, the thought of the overnight, buy a Powerball ticket, I still do as well, but you're 1 in 300 million chance, right? Yeah. The better opportunity is to understand what you need to do and put in the effort and work to do it.
Excellent advice. Well, Andrew, thank you. We're going to hit you with a few quick, what we call the lightning round here, where we just ask you to, quickly give an answer. So, favorite quote?
Okay, so favorite quote.
You can pass.
You can pass on that one for a second.
Happiest moment?
Different times in my life, different happy moments. So
one particular one?
When all three of my children were born at that moment.
Awesome. That's cool. That's a good one. How about lowest moment?
My grandfather passed away.
Wow. Okay.
He wore this for 70 years.
Oh, wow.
And he wore this for 60 years. This came from my grandmother.
Wow.
And this also as well. So very close to him, and that was a very sad moment.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Most important quality for a startup entrepreneur?
Persistence.
Good one. Any must read? Well, you already talked about Tony Robbins, how great he is. How about book or books that you would recommend to people? Any particular?
Sure. I mean, I've given out the book, The Law of Attraction, more than any other book ever.
Okay.
So I would say that.
Okay, good. What do you do with all these businesses that you have going on? What do you do to relax? And you have any hobbies other than business?
So I like to travel.
Okay.
I've been grateful that in my insurance days and since, I've been to 65 countries.
Wow.
And pre-COVID, I took my kids. I take the boys to just random parts of the world.
How many kids?
I have 3 kids.
Okay. And all boys?
2 boys and a girl.
Oh, 2 boys and a girl. Okay.
Son's going to the high school. I got another one in middle school. My daughter's in elementary school.
Awesome.
So I definitely love to travel.
Great.
And have one of the next hobby is to get to space.
Great. I love it. Favorite restaurant in South Florida?
Cafe Vico.
Oh, nice. I love Vico.
Fantastic.
Good plug for local business.
It is.
Great local
it's my
business,
favorite.
Marco Vico. So how can people get a hold of you, Andrew?
To get a hold of me, they could call me, they could text me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. Andrew S. at recoveryunplugged.com. People can call me anytime.
Awesome.
No problem. Happy to help.
That's great. We really appreciate you being on the show. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and for what you're doing as well, Keith.
Thank you. So great to talk with Andrew Sossin today. Guy's a real serial entrepreneur, been involved in a lot of businesses, and just really started working when he was a kid at all these different jobs that he had when he was growing up. So he talked about the need to have a strong mindset, and Andrew has obviously developed this because he went through such personal hardship with this horrible fire that he went through, and how he, through his developing a strong mindset, he was able to overcome that tremendous obstacle. He also talked about the power of prayer and the law of attraction, and how you never really know where your next opportunity might be coming from. So you need to be open to things and allow things to come in, and maybe they won't be exactly the way you thought they were going to be. He also talked about the ability to access tremendous resources and opportunities that weren't available maybe a few years ago, but through online resources, entrepreneurs have the ability to access a lot more information and valuable help. And I think one of the most important things he said was, if you want to be in a business, find somebody who's already in that business and doing it well, and do what they're doing and adapt that to your style. So just a great job by Andrew Sossin. I really enjoyed talking with him today. And you can check us out at localitybank.com. You can open an account in 3 minutes or less. And we also have a great app.
Thanks for tuning in for Locality's Making Bank podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to catch the latest episodes, and visit localitybank.com today to learn more about all the benefits of banking local.